As promised in the West Tigers history video, I'm looking at the shocking seasons of the Western Suburbs Magpies in 1998 and 1999. There is a reason why this team was so bad. It's not all on the club. It is actually on the Super League war and Rupert Murdoch basically trying his best to destroy historical rugby league clubs with his Super League, where he could pay players stupid amounts of money because he's a multi-billionaire media mogul who's a scummy bastard. That's my opinion on Rupert Murdoch. Done. We don't like him. Now, Tommy Raudonikis was appointed coach in 1995 and he led them to finals footy in 1996. So this Western Suburbs Magpie team in the mid-90s wasn't bad. They just didn't have a lot of money. The Super League war takes effect in 97 and a lot of their good players go to play Super League rugby. And some of their players actually ended up in the Super League here in the UK as well, because again, the salaries were higher and players could get paid more. And the Western Suburbs Magpies couldn't really afford the wages. It wasn't as if the club didn't want to win, they just couldn't afford to win, if you might get sense of that. The Super League war ends and the NRL is formed in 1998. The inaugural NRL season doesn't go well for the Magpies, but it's not as bad as the season after, even though they get less points. There's a 20-team league in 1998. Obviously, there'll be one team would leave and two teams would merge and things would change for the 99 season. But in 98, there's 20 teams. They played 24 games. They won 4 games. They drew no games. They lost 20 games. They got a total of 8 points. They were joint bottom, but they actually got the wooden spoon by virtue of their shocking for and against record. The points they scored, 371. The points they conceded, 802. Yeah, their defence was significantly worse than Gold Coast. Significantly worse. Their points differential was minus 431. They were bad. They were very bad. It doesn't get much better after this. So they had a shocking wooden spoon season. Record-breakingly bad. They would do their best to go, hold my beer, for next season we're going to get worse. And they did. Now, in 1999, the league had shrunk to 17 teams as part of the programme of the NRL to shrink from 20 to a smaller league, I think of 14 or 15 teams. I think they were determined to shrink the size of the league as an agreement made with the Rugby League Commission and Rupert Murdoch and all the various players who had an interest in the NRL and its long-term direction. They had to shrink the size of the league. So 1999 rolls around and at this time, the St George Illawarra Dragons have been formed as a joint venture club in the off-season between the Illawarra Steelers and the St George Dragons have merged together. The joint venture was being pressurised on a lot of Sydney clubs at this time to shrink the size of the league. Some teams like Norths would just drop out the league altogether. They would refuse to merge with anyone else and they would drop down a level to reserve grade. The Western Suburbs were keen to play on. How they wish they had merged with someone. I swear they would have taken it in a heartbeat. Now, they played 24 games in 1999. They won 3, so they've got worse. They drew no games. They lost 21. They were a lot worse. But they got 10 points because of the 2 bye rounds that were introduced by the NRL for this season. So they got 10 points, but actually they were worse than the season before. They were 17th and last, their second back-to-back wooden spoon. Their points differential is where it gets terrifying. They scored less points. They were less of a threat going forward. They got 285 points scored. They conceded 944 points in 24 games, which is a points differential of minus 659. So they've got significantly worse defensively and they are less potent in attack. You couldn't make this up. This is historically bad. There has been no rugby league team in history of this bad in a one-off season. If you thought 98 was bad, 99, 20 years ago was one of the most horrific seasons of all time. Midway through that season, by the end of 99 they had merged, but midway through the season it was announced that the Balmain Tigers and Western Suburbs Magpies had agreed to a joint venture for the following season, known as the West Tigers, which we've done a video on. There were talks earlier in that season to merge with Canterbury Bulldogs. They fell through. The Balmain Tigers had talks with several clubs like Penrith and Parramatta, and in the end, because the Western Suburbs Magpies were that bad and they were that desperate, they said to Balmain, please merge with us. We have players and fans who want to stay in the NRL and keep supporting the club. And Balmain also were having some financial difficulties as well at this point, and they readily accepted, and the West Tigers were born. In this 2-year period, however, they played a total of 48 games under Tommy Raudonikis as coach in the 2 years, although he had been coach for several years previous to that. They had only won, in 2 years, 7 games. They lost 41 games. They had 656 points for. Doesn't sound too bad, but their points against were 1,746. And their points differential was 1,090 against. That's how bad they were. You'll never see a side this bad ever again. Basically, in these 2 years, the side they put out was reserve grade players. Financial constraints because of the Super League war basically led to these 2 shocking seasons. And even though Tommy Raudonikis had taken the club in 96 to finals football, and they had a great season in 96 and a great season in 95 as well, the Super League war and Rupert Murdoch doing his best to kill rugby league, in my view, because Rupert Murdoch was just a greedy bastard who just wanted to control everything, led to the demise of such a great historical club. But to be fair, by the 90s, they had not been a great club for quite some time. They hadn't won a final for quite some time. Their history days were well behind them. Their glory days were well in the past by this point. But never again will you see 2 such shocking seasons. The fact they actually got points and wins is stunning, because although there have been worse seasons for wins, like Newcastle Knights had I think a season recently where they won less games. At least the Newcastle Knights had a defence that could at least keep them in games, even if they were losing narrowly. But conceding 944 points a season defensively, yeah, you want to sack your defence coach if they had one at this point. But these are the 2 worst seasons in NRL history for points for and against. The fact they actually got 7 wins in this period is astonishing, even to me. This was the St George Illawarra Dragons' first season as a joint venture, and it was the last season that the Balmain Tigers and Western Suburbs Magpies were separate clubs at NRL level. The Balmain Tigers and Western Suburbs Magpies still have, clubs. The Magpies still play at reserve grade and lower levels in the Rugby League pyramid, and there is a call to bring back the Western Magpies and the Balmain Tigers in some kind of capacity into the NRL. There are calls to bring back Norths. There are calls to have some of the historical foundation clubs return to the top level. It won't happen, but there are calls. But there you go. There is the shockingly bad Western Suburbs Magpies in 98 and 99, and that's mostly down to the Super League wars and the fact that the Western Suburbs Magpies did not have the money to recruit decent players and retain players from their 96 finals run. They just could not put a competitive squad together, and you can blame and thank Rupert Murdoch for that. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your thoughts below. If you watched any of these shocking games that this team played and actually stuck by this team, I give you a pat on the back. I give you a round of applause for sticking by your team through such shocking seasons. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your thoughts below, and I will have some more videos for you soon.